Prosperity. Prosperity is our theme for this morning, and I feel prosperity and happiness with this music, with these readings, with each and every one that said yes and showed up today. So, last week, the talk was based on a book by Arianna Huffington called Thrive. If you remember it, it was a bestseller. And Huffington, that's what happens when I don't look at my notes. So we looked at 4 qualities of a redefined successful life, what success really means to us. And the first one was well-being. Do we feel grounded and at peace? That sense of knowing that everything is in perfect order, that is that beautiful feeling of well-being. And in particular, we spoke about your spiritual well-being. Then we had wisdom. And wisdom, this is for the redefined successful life. Wisdom is that deep knowing that there is one presence, one power, one good that is for us. And knowing that, having the wisdom to actually know that this presence will provide each and every one of us anything and all things when we are truly open, clear, and receptive to it. And always for our highest good. And then we had wonder. And it's not like wonder what's going to happen, but more like, I am such a wonder. My body, my mind, everything about me is a wonder. Life is a wonder. When I look out, just got back from Michigan, and I looked out at the Great Lakes, and you can't see any other mountains there because they're like oceans, but it was so magnificent and such wonder. It's amazement, it's beautiful. And the other 4th quality was giving. Giving, it will always be a part of a successful life. Any truly successful person who's in a state of well-being gives. And that's something for us to remember. Giving. It sets up the sense of overflow, of abundance, so always we give. And an interesting little side note about Huffington is that she stepped down as editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post. And she's now has a company called Thrive Global, and it's all about well-being and wellness. So she's now on that circuit of she really dedicated herself. I think this book kind of shifted her perspective of being in that other life, and she created a new one, as we all can. So this week I would like to base our talks, I'm so excited, on a book called Prosperity by Charles Fillmore. He's the co-founder of Unity, if you know Unity. And this book is absolutely one of my favorites. We will have it for sale next week. There's an order in, and they will be here tomorrow. So we're going to have this book on prosperity. I would highly recommend that you get it. And one of the biggest aspects of this book is about prosperity, is about a change in consciousness. It's always going to be in our consciousness to shift into that open and receptive mode. And I'm going to try to pull out a few ideas because the whole book is underlined. It's like our class on Tuesday nights, The Power of Decision, Raymond Charles Barker. Hello, this book is phenomenal. I have the whole book, and most people in the class, every word is underlined because every word is a gem. It's the same with this book, Prosperity. And so it's so rich in spiritual ideas. And the first of one is this important one. I'm going to quote him. He writes this: "We are not studying prosperity to become rich, but to bring out those characteristics that are fundamental to prosperity. We must learn to develop the faculty that will bring prosperity and the character that is not spoiled by prosperity." So it is always going to go back, and if you read John Randolph Price, The Abundance book, it's not the 10-day part, that's phenomenal, but the little teeny book itself, I think we have some back there, it's about the consciousness of abundance. It will always precede any other kind of successful living, that consciousness. And so, before we go any further, I want to make sure that we all know two of the things that money is really good for. And I really want us to get this because it's so important for us to know. Money is God in action. It's an energy that is flowing. We use it. It's a materialistic thing, but the energy behind it is the consciousness that we're talking about. So the two things that money is good for, it's good for a lot of things, actually. I like money. I'm a money magnet. Yes. Anyway, that's later. I just love saying that. Okay, so money gives you the freedom. It gives you the freedom to share your love, your talents, your gifts with the world. Your time. It allows you to enjoy a life where you get to do the things you want to do. I mean, there are conferences, there are all kinds of other enriching acts that money provides, because you've got to pay for these things. Very rarely do they say, oh, this is free. You know, you have to pay for them. So money gives you that freedom. And money also gives you the ability to give back financially. It's always going to come back. Some of the most successful people I know are always giving. They're giving of their time, their talent, and their treasure. Treasure being money. So I'm going to say those real briefly again because I think they're really important. The two things money are good for, which I think is more than two, but anyway. It gives you the freedom to share your love, your gifts, your talents, your time with the world in ways that bring you joy and fulfillment. It really is about the state of our consciousness, the state of our being. That's what it's really, it's not about just getting things. It's about being part of the joy. And it gives you the ability to give back financially and make a positive difference in this world. There are so many, you go on social media, there's so many GoFundMes and You Care and all of these different causes that you just want to give to. And it makes you feel good when you give. So said a different way, money supports two of the hallmarks of thriving. It really does. Your well-being and your giving. And that's what it's good for. In Prosperity, Fillmore also writes this: the spiritual substance from which comes all visible wealth is never depleted. I want to say that one again. It's never depleted. Spiritual substance is never depleted. It is right with you all the time and responds to your faith in it and your demands on it. And he continues, it is not affected by our ignorant talk of hard times, though we are affected because our thoughts and our words govern our demonstration. Pour your living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, and you will be prospered through, though all the banks in the world close their doors. It's not dependent on any person, place, and thing. And this is the part that is challenging to most of us, because we think if this channel closes up, we know there's one source, many channels, then I won't have enough. And we're talking about a power, substance, because God is energy, pure energy, and it is always more than enough, always more than enough. And the key to what he just said here is the key to our abundance consciousness, and it's this idea, I can't repeat it enough, spiritual substance is never depleted. Does that make you feel good? Yeah. It makes me feel good. And why is that? Because it's infinite. Yeah. It's infinite. And no matter how much is used or taken away, that which is infinite still has an infinite amount to give. There's always left over. It's infinite. You cannot deplete spiritual substance, which is the truth of our being. It's not what we have been brought up to think, that it's simply money. Money's great. Money is fabulous. We love money because money is part of our well-being. So to be in a thriving kind of consciousness, this energy of money is very important. And it's a big concept and possibly hard to wrap our minds around sometimes. So what is more tangible that we could easily grasp that would fit into this concept? How about ideas? Ideas are what the universe operates on. It's the currency of the universe. It is always creating out of itself more and more. So ideas are very important. We have an infinite amount of ideas when we let ourselves go and flow with it. That creative force within us is always coming up with new ideas. They're infinite. They're infinite. How about music? The music is infinite. There's always new music. It's always being created. Music is the language of the universe. And what about air? Really? Do we have enough air to breathe? We take that for granted. There's more than enough air. In fact, Fillmore writes about that. He says this: there is no scarcity of air you breathe. There is plenty of air to breathe. In fact, all you will ever need. But if you close your lungs and refuse to breathe, you will not get it and may suffocate for lack of air. When you recognize the presence of the abundance of air and open your lungs to breathe it deeply, you get a larger inspiration. This is exactly what you should do with your mind in regards to substance. There is, he writes, an all-sufficiency of all things, just as there is an all-sufficiency of air. The only lack is our own lack of appropriation. And it's just so expansive. And Fillmore's book is an expansive book, and it allows us to move into an area where, yeah, I am abundant. And the more that we believe that, the more we create it in our life, the more we speak that, the more we create it in our lives. It's already there. But sometimes we block it because we focus on the very thing that we lack. And I'm saying right here, and Fillmore is saying right here, that spiritual substance that is the only truth of our being, because these physical forms, I mean, when you're laying there ready, or whatever you're doing, ready to leave this physical form, you're not going to be thinking about the bills you haven't paid. You're not going to be thinking about the new car you want to get. No, because that eternal self of who you are is alive and is thriving and will continue to thrive. There is no lack in God. All right? And God is pure energy. So I love this section of the quote that I shared this before, but I really love it. It, meaning infinite substance, is not affected by our ignorant talk of hard times, though we are affected because our thoughts and words govern our own demonstration. Pour your living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, and you will be prospered, though all the banks in the world close their doors. Like, copy that, write that down. You know, get this book next week, or go on Amazon or wherever you go, because you can use it after you watch the news. Put the news on. You know, get that feeling of whatever it is you get the feeling of with the news. And then put it down, I mean, close it off, turn it off, and read Fillmore's book on prosperity. Read a paragraph. It will uplift you. The question is that what words are we pouring into the omnipresent substance? What words are we using every day? Think of some words. But first of all, they would be the polar opposite if it's something that doesn't make you feel good. So what's something you might say to yourself every day?
That does or doesn't feel good.
Excuse me? That doesn't know. So you use this and it doesn't serve your highest good.
Are you asking us?
Yes, I'm asking.
Okay.
Anyone?
I don't have enough.
I don't have enough. So the opposite of that is, I am infinitely supplied. The universe always provides for me. And we prove it over and over again. And to have the faith. Something else.
It'll never work.
It'll never work. There are only solutions in the infinite mind. You're in the power of decision class. And we study that with Raymond Charles Barker. Yes, it always works because God is solution. God does not, this energy does not reside in problems. There are no problems. Nothing to block the flow of good from happening. Those are some of the things we tell ourselves. Well, just switch it to the exact opposite. In this thing called You, a great book by Ernest Holmes, he says this: let no words come forth from your lips that you don't want to have come back into your life. Whoa.
Wow.
Think of some of the things we say. It's like a boomerang.
Yeah.
Boom,
Wow.
boom. You know, it's like we say these things and, you know, it's a continuous working on ourselves because we're all functioning with these old beliefs that are operating in our subconscious and come up. But the more we become aware of the spiritual truth of our being, the more that we are acutely aware that, oh, that didn't feel good. Just counter it with a new belief. Think of those words like a boomerang. You can identify some words that you really don't want to come back in your life. And here's what will happen. When you consciously, deliberately, and continually think and say what you really want, here's what happens. You become that magnet I talked about. You attract the very thing that you think about, that you speak about. You attract it into your life. That is why it is so important for us to be aware of what we are thinking and speaking. The infinite substance is there. It's always there. It's always there. The only thing that keeps it from fully expressing in our lives is our beliefs. What we're saying and what we're thinking. Sometimes we can get discouraged when things don't happen fast enough. I know I do. So it's like I have to keep working on that in the perfect time, in divine right order. You know, and I love these words of encouragement by Fillmore. He says, if your prosperity does not become manifest as soon as you pray and affirm God as your substance, your supply, and your support, refuse to give up. Refuse to give up. Isn't that great? Just refuse to give up. Continually go back to that place that knows that infinite good is always giving to us. And the very thing that we want. I know we want our own space. So, I mean, it feels like it's taken forever. But it's like in the perfect time. The perfect space will be made. I refuse to give up. And I know that so many members here refuse to give up. And this is what I've learned. Things are working even in the unseen. The challenge is you can't see what is happening. So therefore, kind of our mind doesn't really believe it. But that doesn't mean that things aren't happening because you're not seeing them right now. Because they are. And I always love this example of the bamboo plant. So bamboo seeds, you plant them in the ground and you don't see anything for about 3 years. Nothing happens, right? You probably think nothing is happening, okay? And your effort is void, it's gone. You might not even water the dirt anymore. But is nothing happening in truth? Absolutely not. Nothing is definitely not happening. A lot is going on. Double negative, right? A lot is happening. It is establishing, those seeds are establishing a strong, deep root structure so that when the growth period happens, which is phenomenal, it's ready. It's ready. So it's building it. The roots are going deep. You can't see a plant. Because once the shoot peeks through that ground, It can grow up to 4 feet in 24 hours. And in 3 months, it can shoot as high as 70 feet. You ever see bamboo plants spread? I mean, they're amazing, but it takes, if you plant them from a seed, it takes that time. It takes 3 years before the growth comes up. And then it's like amazing. And the same is happening for us. The very same thing. It appears that nothing is happening. Roots are being laid. We have to remember that. Things are being lined up in the invisible for us. Refuse to give up. Refuse to give up. And keep taking whatever steps that are yours to take. Fillmore tells us, no one ever fully sees the steps that he must take in reaching a certain end. That's why I say we come up with the what and we let the universal law take care of the how. Because most of the time we don't know how, and our how is kind of limited. But we must take the next step, whatever it is, knowing that there's always going to be a next step. And the next step, you ever do that and you make a move? It could be in a job, in a house, in a relationship. You take the first step that you're guided to kind of do, and then the next one, and then you look back over a year or two and you go, wow, all of this happened. People go, wow, she's really lucky. Look what's in her life. Look what she had. But it didn't start like that. It started with that first little step. Scripture tells us, thy word is a lamp unto thy feet and a light unto thy path. And that doesn't mean a floodlight illuminating the whole path. It doesn't mean that. It means rather a light, a lantern. Think about walking in the woods, a lantern for the next step. And then the next step. You follow the steps. The whole path, sometimes it is, the whole thing's lit up, but that doesn't usually happen. As you are taking your steps, here's an amazing affirmation taken from his book, Prosperity. I have faith in the substance of God working in and through me to increase and bring abundance into my world. Or we could shorten it to, I have faith in the substance of God. And we can use the substance of good if we want. So let's say that together. Let's say this. I have faith in the substance of God.
I have faith in the substance of God.
Great affirmation.
Great
affirmation. So far, maybe you don't realize it, but we've just gone over 5 very strong and powerful affirmations that have taken place during this talk, and I'm going to read them to you right now. Spiritual substance is never depleted. There is plenty of air to breathe. Refuse to give up. No one ever fully sees the steps. I have faith in the substance of God. And we're going to get to the final gems found in this book because there are so many. It's infinite, like our substance is infinite. These are all around one theme, which is just one chapter in the book. And I'm going to share right now the crux of it from Charles Fillmore's book. He writes this: the great promise of prosperity is that if we seek God and his righteousness first, righteousness means right thinking, okay? Righteousness is right thinking, then all shall be added unto us. One of the most practical and sensible ways of seeking God's kingdom first is to put God first in finances. We don't do that, a lot of us. When we put God first in our finances, not only in thought, but in every act, by releasing our first fruits to the Lord, our faith is omnipresent supply then becomes 100-fold stronger, and we prosper accordingly. Obeying this law, and it is a spiritual law, gives us an inner knowing that we are building our finances on a sure foundation that will not fail us. It cannot fail us. These spiritual laws do not fail us. Put God first in finances. This is through the high and holy act of tithing. And it's leaving 10% of our good with the source of all who has spiritually uplifted, to organizations, to people. It's giving back. It's giving back freely and uninhibitedly. And it is, first of all, it makes you feel incredible. Talk about an abundance consciousness that you will develop. And then you start doing it in every action and every activity of your life. Spiritually, it will enrich our lives, and whose work in the world we want to see flourish. When we give to certain organizations that really fill us with such upliftment, and you see them flourish in the world, it gives us such joy and fulfillment. Put God first in finances. And Fillmore suggests that when we, as he says, obey this law, we are, and we're talking about spiritual laws, we're not talking about human laws, in case you wanted to know. This is not like a Christian church where it's a law, like a human-made law. This is for you to do on your consciousness if you really would like to have a prosperity consciousness. And he suggests that we are building our finances on a sure foundation that will not fail us. And that is a promise. And all we can ever say in New Thought, in Science of Mind, is God, use it for yourself. See how it works for you. Because God is an unfailing source of supply. Do you believe that? Mm-hmm. See? It's about faith. It's about belief. And I want to leave you with some final words of advice from Fillmore, contained in what is our last gem in this talk. And it appears at page 24 in his book. He writes this: do not take anyone's word for it, but try. Try this for yourself. No other fellow's realization of substance, the other fellow's realization of substance will not guarantee your supply. You must become conscious of it for yourself. Identify yourself with substance until you make it yours. It will change your finances, destroy your fears, stop your worries, and you will soon begin to rejoice in the ever-present bounty of God. Now, what we have for you in your program is a piece of paper. Let me take that out, please, because it's 8 of our affirmations for prosperity that I put in your program today. Let's get them out because we're going to read them together. Okay? All right, let's read them out loud together. Spiritual substance is never depleted. There is plenty of air to breathe. Refuse to give up. No one ever fully sees the steps. I have faith in the substance of God. Put God first in finances. God is an unfailing source of supply. I rejoice in the ever-present bounty of God. Those you can put up somewhere, you can read them, you can remember them, you can throw them away if you choose. Because remember this, it's always choice. Your choice will determine your living experience. And that's what I have for you this morning. Thank you.